Okay, good morning. And we will be starting this session. The name of our session is Learning Outcomes of New Library Initiatives. And we have 5 presentations. The first presentation, Academic Library Services to Support Distance Learning. What are we doing in post-COVID times? By Luisa Baptista Melo and Tatiana Sanchez. We'll see a video here. So please.
Good morning. I'm very happy to participate in this conference again. And we are presenting a study about academic library service to support distance learning. What are we doing in post-COVID times? This study is from me and Tatiana Sanchez. Now, the scope. The following issues. Pandemic, COVID, growth of digital resources and collections in academic libraries, emergency remote learning, distance learning. And so we use the following methods. Survey of higher education librarians in Portugal, based on the standards of distance learning library service from ACRL, which characterize them with available of online service, equitable access to face-to-face and online resources, human resources with skills available to the community in distance learning, accessible online training, specific online activities, evaluation of online service, direct access to quality service, and online library service, and finally, an open question. Well, about the results. Can you speak about the results?
Yes, hello. About the results, in Portugal, we have about 133 higher education libraries, and we send to all the librarians responsible for that libraries this questionnaire, but we had only received 27 responses. So about the characterization of the answers, we had mostly women had responded, and the ages, the median ages are between 46 and 60 years old. So, and about his education, we have in these responses, mostly the 90% of university education and about 10% of polytechnics. And about the scientific fields, as we see in the graphic, social and humanities are the predominant areas.
We did some questions, and the first question is, does your library identify, develop, coordinate, and implement online service, insurance staff, and technological means to support learning for students who are at a distance?
Well, this was concerning to services available in a regular or even structured and consolidated manner. So analyzing this data collected, we can see that almost 90% of libraries, yes, they develop and implement online services and have resources and staff to support it, and namely supports distance learning students. Another question,
does your library ensure equal access to resources face-to-face and online in an inclusive, effective, and appropriate way for members of the academic community.
And here too, we have mostly positive responses. So 92.5% consider that they have provide equality of access, with 40% as classified as good access and excellent access, almost 40% too.
The following question is library staff available to the distance learning community, particularly to provide online training service and facilitate the use of the e-resources in distance learning?
And here too, we see that the online services are available and facilitating staff to provide training and support in the use, particularly in the use of electronic resources with favorable and remarkable conditions. And this is a very good sign too.
So, another question. Does the library offer an online training program in line with international standards for teaching information literacy?
Here, despite the difference, the trend is positive, with over 60% of respondents ensuring that these skills are consistently taught online.
Does the library
contemplate
in its options and or strategic documents a vision, mission, or goals that influence distance learning by offering specific online activities?
So here we see that the graphic, it's not as the previous. So about 35% of the respondents do not have a strategic vision in order to be able to formulate it in their guiding documents, either in terms of policy or administration. So either way, this is something to be attentive.
Are evaluation of service plans that include online input or input from students who do not come to the library face-to-face?
Well, here we see that there is a difference between the distribution. So about 30% say no, another 30% say yes, although in the irregular way, and finally another 30% say that this evaluation practice already structured and consolidated.
And does the library ensure direct access to online services, sufficient quality, depth, and timeliness?
Well, this seems to be the strongest issue in higher education libraries, as this word where they claim the most to be able to make a consistent, regular, and consolidated online offer. And finally, we asked if libraries would indicate us what services they maintained online once this was maybe several options of possible service that we had already have, but that we could have reinforced through COVID and post-COVID. So about these results, we can say that making the open access publications available, accessible online training, and as well as interlibrary loan and digital reproduction services in compliance with copyright laws are the most prevalent digital services in the responding higher education libraries. On the other hand, we have training in digital skills to support distant learning for instance, Zoom use and promotion, dissemination, and marketing of distance services, as well as the availability of scanning machines for users use, appear with the lowest scores, which is nevertheless surprising given the significant percentage of libraries that offer these services. And even though they are really high, if we think that all these are facilities to provide distance learning or to support distance learning.
So in the discussion, we underline the following issues. Technological advances have contributed to the accreditation of through online library environment accessible from anywhere. They have minimized the distance between remote and face-to-face users. Higher education libraries have naturally embraced digital culture and are concerned with the provision of such service and resources to support learning. And however, there is still some work to be done in designing and offering more consistent online training and including this digital vision in a strategic, creative, and elaborated in the structural way in this service.
So, in conclusion, we see that several factors have influenced the success of distance learning. One is that the adoption of synchronous and asynchronous technologies in the academic context, and this is a good influence. Another one is that political sensibility and strategy implemented were also affected. Then the instructional design, and finally the collaboration and support of libraries. And this is only a part of that success. So there is plenty of space to proceed, but we think that in this work we have made some strategic findings to help our colleagues to adopt several pedagogical strategies to, well, bring the lessons of digital and remote learning to nowadays. So
thank you. We are speaking from Universidade de Lisboa. You can see the place in the picture. And if you want to ask some questions, we are here to respond. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa and Tatiana. We'll take the questions afterwards. So first the presentations, and then after all the presentations, we have some time for the questions. But okay, but we continue here, and next one is challenges of e-learning in the Information Studies Department at Sultan Qaboos University. And we have Ahmed Shehata, Nahed Salem, and Khalsa Abdullah Al-Barashdi. So please.
Good morning, everybody. our presentation, it's papers between and our colleagues, Dr. Ahmed Shahata and Nahid Salim. Our paper is about challenges of e-learning in Information Studies Department at Sultan Qaboos University. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a shift in our daily life and how we interact with others. Countries have applied measures to reduce the pandemic effect. The educational systems are based on students and staff to interaction in classroom to deliver information to students and generate the students can understand the course. However, education institutions overcome this problem by utilizing digital platforms that facilitate e-learning, changing the educational approach from the traditional style to the electronic style. The current paper explores the challenges that face the adoption of e-learning in the Information Studies Department and possible solutions to handle these challenges. This study will help to understand how the e-learning process can be improved in the department and how to avoid possible issues that might emerge in similar situations. The coronavirus crisis has cast its shadow over the education sector, forcing universities and education institutions to close their doors to reduce the separate rate. This raise significant concern within this sector, pushing educational institutions to switch to full and distance e-learning as an alternative that has long considered as a separative pathway in the education process. With the wide adoption of e-learning, multiple challenges emerge and many skills were developed. E-learning challenges are represented in many aspects, including social challenges, technical challenges, financial challenges, and cyber security challenges, which is in study of Al-Kharousa 2020. COVID-19 pandemic has escalated the problems that education systems are facing while worldwide, making everyone question the readiness of educational system to face such crisis. The current research project explores the challenges and perception of information department students at Sultan Qaboos University during the corona crisis. Educational institutions all over the world have suddenly shifted from traditional learning style to e-learning style. This sudden shift has created many issues for the students and staff as the level of performances of e-learning varied among information institutions. The Information Studies Department is one of the departments at Sultan Qaboos University that faced many issues while moving to e-learning developed the department early utilization of e-learning platform. Study objectives, we have objectives of our study. First one, explore the challenges of e-learning in the Department of Information Studies at Sultan Qaboos University. Examine the perception of students of e-learning challenges, explore the perception of the staff affiliated to the department of challenges that facing them in e-learning, and the fourth one, suggest solutions to the challenges that face both students and staff during e-learning. The question of research, the main research question is, what are the challenges that affect e-learning education in the Department of Education Studies at Sultan Qaboos University? The first question, what are the challenges of e-learning in the Department of Information Studies at Sultan Qaboos University? What is the perception of students of the e-learning challenges, what are the staff's perception affiliated to the department of the challenges facing them in e-learning, and how to overcome the challenges that face both students and staff during e-learning. The methodology is in the current studies adopted the mixed methods research design in order to answer the research questions. The study used questionnaire to collect data on the challenges of e-learning at the Department of Studies. And the questionnaire consisted of three main sections: graphic data, sample option of e-learning platforms, challenges of e-learning. And this is the distribution of the sample by gender, academic year, and technological skill. In technological skill level, we will put it beginner and above intermediate, excellent. And we take from second to fourth year, because the students come in our department in the second year. First year, it is course, pre-courses, or orientation for them. They take a course from our department. And the third levels we will use here is about the agenda. In order to analyze the questionnaire, SPSS 24 was used to analyze the data, and the data was extracted from Google Forms in an Excel sheet. The data was coded into numbers and improved to us as for interview. We will use transcribed and coded manually, because it's many interviews with teacher. The results platforms used in e-learning, which is shows in figure 1 for e-learning. The most, or we will find about teaching style. It's a model as the main platforms to use. It's taking 75%, because it is the this is the teaching style, or this is the programs which is used in our university, and it is the program which used to adopt it from traditional style to e-learning style. For that, anything will come in this program for students, lectures, exams, anything for contact with students in model program. But we will say at the end will come model and Zoom, because it's not the for using the style for the teaching style. Students' perception of challenges. The result indicated many challenges that face for students while using e-learning model, and which is shows here. We will first or give it the students many statements, and we will show on the its mean for 57 for internet availability and quality is one of the factors affecting distance education. And for that, we will know it because we will use the t-test level statistically significant differences between males and females' opinion about the obstacles of e-learning. Students also showed because significant differences between this statement, and also asked them to answer open question to freely indicate obstacles over this question. And we said many or the most challenges for students in connection of internet. And the third one is the perception of regarding online exams. And the sample will shows or believes that one of the negative of the online exams is not the students' equal evaluation, as the students said. And the results showed that the students believe that online exams are not fair, and marks didn't improve in online exams, because for the time, and this is when we give them an online exam. It's the first time for students. For that, it is so problem with them. The staff perception of the challenges, the data we'll use here interviewing with the staff, and the teaching challenges can be summarized in the compatibility of some courses with e-learning, where some courses need face-to-face with students, like classification, information technology, and of course, training courses. For information studies, we must some courses face-to-face, and for that, it is the most also problem of e-learning challenges. The discussion and conclusion, the current study results have shown that many challenges faced to adoption of e-learning in the information studies department. The main challenges were having technical requirements because we are in nature of our country. Many students live in interior of Oman, and we have a problem with internet connection, especially in mountains or in desert. Also, training on using e-learning tools in education is one of the challenges we find hindering of the efforts to convert e-learning. Students need to be trained to be able to use the various tools available for e-learning. The Information Studies Department has leading experience e-learning in Oman and the Middle East. Even with the experience, many challenges face the department in migration to e-learning. E-learning as a primary education method might be a temporal phenomenon. However, many practices that are pushed with e-learning will continue even after moving back to the traditional learning style. Thank you for your listening, and welcome if you have a question.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting, and we'll have the questions afterwards. But now we'll continue in Sultan Qaboos University. We have next presentation about Sultan Qaboos University students' ethical competencies during e-learning, a case study of on the Information Studies Department, and it's made by have several writers here: Ahmed Shehata, Mustafa Al-Khalaf, Khalfan Al-Hachi, El Sayed El Savi, and Noor Eldin Osman. So, please.
Sorry? Okay. So for the questionnaire, we designed the questionnaire from two sources. The first source was attitude toward plagiarism questionnaire validated by Mavernick. And the other source was the guidelines set by the university, the ethical guidelines set by the university. The questionnaire was in Arabic language, and then we translated in English language. The questionnaire exploratory factor analysis was conducted to assess the construct's validity and of the questionnaire, and after that, the data collection. Things can go wrong. Should I wait? Should continue? I would say that as for the analysis, we performed the analysis on a score of 93 students enrolled in the information studies department. We used factor structure of ethical competencies, revealed two factors, plagiarism and e-learning practices. The total variance of explained by these two factors exceeded 30%, which is considered an acceptable ratio in exploratory factor analysis. In the next slide, table of the results, but we will skip it. The key findings of our research. The results indicated that e-learning practices during COVID had both positive and negative in the information studies department. The university issued an e-learning practice policy to ensure fairness of the education process within the e-learning context, but the students lacked training on the best conduct in e-learning, which affected their experience. The main problem confronting the students in the e-learning system is related to trust. Students lack trust in the system effectiveness or the assessment process, leading to unacceptable practices such as attending lectures to be registered on the attending list, not to listen to the lecture, and using phones to join the lectures. Students also lack training on how to engage in e-learning system or to deal with different assessment, which did lead to the belief that e-learning is inferior to face-to-face lectures and increase the engagement with the teaching staff. As for the conclusion, we think that it's better to set a training program for the students to shift to the e-learning before exposing them to e-learning environment. We also think that the e-learning guidelines set by the university need to be revised, and students need, not only students need to be trained, also the academics, the staff need to be trained on how to evaluate the students in e-learning environment, because the evaluation methods in e-learning are different than the other methods. And we need to teach the students how to avoid plagiarism, avoid unethical practice, and trust their friends in the same classrooms, that they will not cheat, so they will guarantee to and ensure their marks are correct and there is a fair assessment and evaluation in the department. Thank you for listening, and sorry for everything.
Thank you very much, Professor Ahmed Sehata. It was interesting, but unfortunately we couldn't see your slides for two reasons. But afterwards you can ask about the presentation. But we'll go to the next presentation by Brian Hole, and new services to evidence library impact Opera's metrics. So Brian, please. Yeah, we hope that the slides will. Okay. So please.
Mine started in English. So. Yeah. Sorry, I'll just adjust this a little. Is this okay? Okay. I feel really lucky, first of all, to be in a room where everyone just about is from a different country, but also that it's in my native language. So let me know if I speak too fast. So good morning. And also very lucky that my slides were. Thank you. I've just jinxed it, but let's see. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a new service called Opera's Metrics. The word Operas comes from, actually, I don't remember exactly what it stands for. It's a European consortium of higher education institutions and organizations involved in scholarly publishing. And we work together on European funded projects. And this is one of them. And I'll give you a quick introduction, I think, to Ubiquity. So I'm from Ubiquity. We started off as an open access publisher. Our mission is to sort of drive change in scholarly publishing and library publishing by bringing about more open access and more open source. It's a very important part of what we do. This isn't an infomercial for us, it's just to give you an idea about where I'm coming from. And we're deeply involved in open source and pushing forward open infrastructure. But we think it's, as an open access publisher, we see it as a really critical way to improve the infrastructure that universities and publishers depend upon to create a more equal access to important infrastructure in the world. And so this slide just really talks about some of the challenges with open source within libraries. I know you mentioned, I heard one platform mentioned before, Moodle, for example. Often open source has a sustainability issue. It's often developed within the library community, but the projects are small. They're funded for a limited period of time, and therefore they don't last for a long time. So we are very careful with the projects we get involved with, and the project I'm going to present, Opera's Metrics, really has a good long-term sustainable model behind it. And this is just to talk about how open source a lot of the projects we use within libraries, we think, okay, open source isn't always high quality, but open source is one of the most dominant forms of software actually out there in the world. So the Linux operating system, things like GitHub, MySQL, all of these types of major software platforms that underpin the entire internet are open source, and we really depend upon them. So open source doesn't have to mean low quality. It just has to be well developed, well maintained, and it needs a proper community behind it. So that's one reason why we as a commercial publisher are involved, because we think it takes non-profit organizations, for-profit organizations, large institutions, small ones, to make something sustainable and to work for the long term. And for us as a commercial company, it's good because we're not dependent on a product that comes from one of our competitors. And everything we do to improve the platform goes back to the community as well. So we use platforms like Open Journal Systems for journals, Samvera for repositories, and the Opera's metrics system for metrics. Okay, and one of the things we do, this is just a quick thing, is we provide our services to university libraries for their publishing. So we provide the infrastructure for university presses, for journal publishing and so forth. Basically what we provide is managed open source. So a university can run the software itself, but they work with us because we provide the infrastructure, make sure it performs well, and we provide staff to help manage it. And that's where we fit in. Anyway, that's enough about us, and over to the project. Opera's Metrics is a metrics platform. It's for publishing. So if your library is publishing journals, for example, hosting them on OJS or other platforms, one of the big challenges is that we don't have good metrics often on these platforms. So we can compare the journals to those that are published by major publishers. And so we can really understand how the journal is being used. And libraries, we like statistics. I'm not a librarian. I used to work at the British Library, though, so I pretend to be one sometimes. But what we really want to understand is not just that we get one number saying this article was read 5,000 times or something. We want to understand a lot more. And this project really tries to provide really comprehensive metrics and to do it in the right way. So, and we try to provide an alternative to the proprietary platforms that are out there like Altmetric and Plum that are owned by Elsevier and so forth. We want to have a really high quality metric service that's freely available. So one of the big differences is that we also collect data from a wide range of services and applications. So we can say, for example, that a book on the library website has been downloaded 2,000 times, but 1,000 of those were from the website, 500 were from JSTOR, 200 were from the directory of open access books, etc. We can provide a really comprehensive understanding of what the usage of the book is. This was developed as part of a European funded project called Hermeos in Horizon 2020, and it's now continuing under Horizon Europe. And Ubiquity's part in the project is as the maintainer of the software. So we provide our development team, but we work with all the other members of the community too. And the platform is specialized in providing metrics for open access books, but we've adapted it for journals and for repositories as well. The source code is available freely through GitHub, and there will be a fully commercial, or not commercially, that's the wrong way of putting it, a managed service available at the end of this year. So that's what the current project is working towards. Oops. Okay, and this is just a quick look at the kind of metrics that are generated and where they come from. So we take things like the abstract views if someone lands on the page and just sees the book or the journal, the number of downloads, the number of times the book has actually been read, if it's been cited and by whom, if it's been annotated. So if you use an annotation system on your platform, like Hypothesis, we can tell how many times the annotations have been made. Number of tweets, whether the book has been mentioned in blogs or in Wikipedia and things like that. So we try to get metrics which really discuss impact and usage of the book. And if you're the author, it's really interesting to know that your work has been cited in Wikipedia, for example. It means it's having an impact on society and broader public understanding of your topic. Likewise, if it's being annotated, it means people are actually using it. They're taking notes and so forth, not just downloading it and never opening it again, like many books on my hard drive. And then we aggregate the data from lots of places like OpenAir, OAPN, Google Books, JSTOR, Wikimedia, Unglue It, places like that. And there are a lot more being added all the time. And we're interested in community feedback for new places to aggregate data from. So if there are books in any of your countries, national repositories, or other places where books are being consumed that we're not aware of, we'd love to know about that. We certainly don't want this to be a European-focused platform only, but to be usable throughout the world and to really explain the long tail of usage throughout the world of language, of products from different languages and so forth. I'll just give you some very quick views of it. This is an example of metrics for a book on our platform. So you can see the range of metrics across the top. You can see the metrics across time and with an international distribution. We're starting to collect feedback, and one of the most interesting pieces of feedback we've had so far is that we should provide a better projection for the map, not the traditional one which shows Europe as being large and the rest of the world as being small, that kind of thing. So we're trying to make this a more globally sensitive product as well. And you can see over there, for example, when we pull in the tweets, we can show the tweet content as well as when the tweets were made. So you can get an idea, especially in the humanities, of when people are discussing a book. They're discussing it often in the first 2 years or so, and then the citations come in after the second year. And the metrics really show you how people are consuming the content. And that's very useful if you're making a decision about things like putting your content into JSTOR and having it locked away for 2 years and things. That's the actual lifetime of the book when it's being consumed. And down at the bottom right, you can also see a breakdown by different sources. So of the views of this particular book, you can see how many are in Google Books, how many in OAPN, how many on the publisher website, how many Open Edition and places like that. So there's a lot of additional detail there. And that, I think, can help a library also to understand which of these platforms they should be providing access to, because this is where users and readers are active. This is just an example from a journal, just once again showing where the metrics are and how they look there. So this is a very simple piece of software to integrate with a simple JavaScript widget onto almost any website. The key thing you need is a DOI for the content. So if either a data site or a Crossref DOI makes all the information trackable, especially the citations. And finally, this is just an example from a couple of our repositories, showing that this can also be used for other things like any repository content. I think we have a thesis over on the right. So, I mean, when I put my thesis into my repository in London, it just disappeared. It went into a black box. I never heard if anyone viewed it, downloaded it. 5 or 6 years later, I found out that the metrics were broken. But it's fantastic if you can tell, that your thesis is being viewed and downloaded, but it's being cited, and who cited it. That's really exciting, important information. So the metrics system allows you to do that as well. And finally, here's some URLs and so forth available. So there's the main page for the product, Opera's metrics, the GitHub repository, and if any of you are interested in finding out more about whether you could use the managed service on your institution's products, web journals, or library websites, you can contact me as well, and I can provide further information. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for an interesting presentation. And then we have the last presentation of this session, and then the questions. Presentation by Moshe Yitzhaki and Simha Dejorayev, Censorship in Israeli Public Libraries, a field study. So please.
Just a short announcement. Please, people, participants from distance, please turn off your microphones, okay? Only the presenter is on. Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. My presentation is based on a doctoral dissertation written by my student. This is Miss Simcha Dejorayev. And of course, most of the credit goes to her. She did most of the work. The study examined censorship in the public library collections in Israel. Its goals was to assess the principle and practical attitudes of public library managers toward issues concerning collection development and controversial materials. Now, the question of principle and practical attitude toward the controversial materials in public libraries is related to some fundamental questions about the essence and the mission of public libraries. First, what is the meaning of intellectual freedom, quotes, in public library activities? What is the social mission of public libraries? What are suitable and unsuitable criteria for collection development? How to apply the principle of free access to information in public libraries, and last, whether or not to allow access to potentially offensive items. So far, no comprehensive study of collection censorship in public libraries in Israel has been conducted, and hence the importance of this study as a pioneering one. The research population included community public libraries in which selection procedures were conducted and which had collections for both children and adults. The dependent variable was the practical attitudes of the librarians to controversial titles like in books, films, and websites. The independent variables were: one, respondents' properties like gender, age, role, seniority, education, sector, and religiosity. Two, library properties like target audience, sector, socioeconomic level of local authority, the area, and last, respondent attitudes in principle toward collection development in public libraries, like a commitment to intellectual freedom, conception of public libraries' social roles, suitable criteria for collection development, tendency toward inclusion and free access to materials in the library. The study combined a quantitative method, it was a closed questionnaire, with a qualitative method in a semi-criterion focused methodology. The quantitative section was designed to provide a comprehensive and thorough survey of Israeli public library managers' actual attitudes. About profile of the respondents, sorry, 190 respondents participated, namely about 30% of the research population. It's pretty good percentage because we know from experience that most people who get the questionnaire do not tend to reply and to send it back. So 30% was pretty good. The majority of respondents did not have librarian qualifications, apparently because most of the libraries which participated were from the rural sector, in which libraries are managed less professionally in all aspects. This is not surprising since most public libraries in Israel are situated in rural areas, and previous studies have in fact reported little to no library training among the majority of practicing librarians in Israel. We assume that most graduates of the academic library schools in Israel hold jobs in the academia, in the universities, or in the private sector as information specialists, for example, mainly due to higher salaries in the last ones. The qualitative section included 20 personal interviews and was designated to enable profound analysis of the environment in which managers function and their reasoning for principle and practical attitudes. The corpus list of specific titles mentioned in the questionnaire and in the interview was built so as to present a diversity of attitudes and argumentations in regard of the subject of material selection in the library. Some of the findings of the quantitative section were as follows. First, there was general agreement among respondents with the conception of the library as a place mainly dedicated to providing leisure activities and entertainment. Second, an almost general agreement was found with the conception of the library as an institute committed to the principle of intellectual freedom. Third, there was a little reserved agreement with the conception of the library as an institute with an educational mission, a little less agreement with the conception of an active liberal mission. Most respondents agreed with, quote, modern orientation approach to the collection development and did not believe in entirely avoiding certain topics. 6, however, there was not general agreement with the principle of free access to information in the library. The respondents differentiated between different kinds of controversial materials. The highest openness level was toward materials touching sexual subjects, which were considered worthy of inclusion in the libraries, except for explicit pornography, which 91% objected. Materials touching sensitive subjects in the Israeli society were considered unworthy by many, and materials potentially endorsing crime, for example, were considered even less worthy. Generally speaking, the respondents tended to allow restricted access to controversial titles like book, films, and websites in their libraries, but there were differences in their attitudes toward different items. Regarding almost all titles, more than half of the respondents chose to buy them without any restriction. Now, the analysis of differences between respondents showed that most of the differences were related to religiosity levels of respondents and the conservativeness of the target audience. Now, the next variable of importance was social economic level of the local municipality. Other variables like age, seniority, education, and library training were related only to few differences. The dependent variables were grouped for practical reasons into three groups. The first group included actual treatment of controversial titles and websites. The second one included theoretical agreement to include controversial materials in public libraries. And the third one, issues concerning collection development. It was interesting to find that a significant negative correlation existed between community conservativeness and respondents' religiosity on one hand, and respondents' openness on the other hand. In other words, the greater the conservativeness was, the lower was the openness. In addition, respondents serving conservative communities showed ambivalent attitude to collection development policy. They agreed tentatively with both avoidant, in quotes, and modern orientation approaches. It was also found that there was a significant positive correlation between level of commitment to intellectual freedom and actual treatment of controversial titles. Another significant positive correlation was found between theoretical agreement to include controversial materials in the library and actual treatment of controversial titles and sites. It indicates, in fact, that the librarians indeed acted according to their own values and beliefs. However, the strength of this correlation varied according to the type of controversial materials. It was strong for materials touching sexual subjects, and it was weak for materials touching sensitive subjects in the society, or materials potentially endorsing crime, as I said before. So we may say that by and large, the respondents have shown consistent principle and practical attitude, although not entirely so to controversial materials. Our study supports the prevalent assumption in research literature that religious values of librarians and communities do influence collection development in public libraries. However, it brings up question about the validity of this assumption with respect to controversial websites. It can be said that the ongoing controversy in the library world about internet filtering in public library stems from professional causes and not necessarily from moral or religious causes. A few words about the qualitative section. The finding of this section were as follows. Interviewees thought that the primary function of the library was to provide leisure activities and entertainment. Libraries offered first and foremost enjoyment from books and also various activities which had a complementary purpose of attracting people to the library. For all of them, the library was seen as a community institution in the sense that it was committed to giving the best services suited for the local population. All interviewees mentioned that the library is open freely for everyone. Almost all of them thought that public libraries have a task of promoting or facilitating intellectual freedom for their readers, although they varied their interpretation of the concept of quotes intellectual freedom and their commitment level. The main differences were against the background of religiosity, as I said, schooling, and environment. Almost all interviewees did not agree that the public library has a mission to promote understanding and tolerance among groups in the society, although they found it important to have acted somewhat to achieve this goal. In contrast to the claim that the world of librarianship is divided between favoring institutional activism and favoring institutional neutrality, our interviewees completely supported the approach that libraries should keep their neutrality and present balanced collection. Although all of them thought that the library has some educational influence on readers, they did differ in conceptualizing the centrality of the educational role. In other words, is education an important mission of the public library, or is it only a byproduct of its activity? Library directors also did differ in conceptualizing the nature of educational content. In other words, which values the library could or should teach or support. Here too, the main differences were against the background of religiosity, schooling, and environment. Almost all interviewees regarded the library as a gate to information by means of free access to library collections and internet. It seems that librarians and the libraries are losing their role as traditional learning center and become more places to learn computer and information skills. Computer use is flourishing, except in ultra-Orthodox libraries, in which no access to the internet is given because of religious and social boundaries. It was also found that the interviewees were preoccupied with questions about setting limits to children's use of computers and internet filtering. The subject of giving service to the ultra-Orthodox sector within the general sector, libraries, was also prominent in the interviews. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Moshe Yitzhaki. And now we have time for questions. Hear anyone? Okay, please.
So I have a question. I mean, I'm very impressed with the Israeli study, and I have a question on whether the librarians or the people that the library staff in these rural communities are getting any training in regard to collection development? In selecting materials.
We do have an organization, official organization of the government, which gives library guidance to the librarians. And from time to time, you know, they have like courses and they are invited to participate. So I can say that they have some, but not all of them, and it depends on how much they want to participate in these courses.
Thank you. Any other questions? Just get the mic.
The tool, the open access tool, how it's different than other tools like PlumX, for example, and other tools available in the other database.
But what is? Oh, not.
It's different in several ways. One, it's open source, so the source code is available to anybody. So you can take it, you can put it on your website yourself, as long as you can support it, and you can modify it. It's different in the sense that statistically, we think it is a superior product. It gives you a proper breakdown of everything that's happening. So everywhere something has been downloaded from, and it's very transparent about where the metrics came from. If you look at something like PlumX or Altmetric, you don't know what the algorithms are, what the mathematics are behind the numbers. I remember one product from one of the major publishers that they first launched. It was a repository, and I put some data in there, and in 2 days they told me I had 500 downloads. I thought, that's amazing. So I went to the website and I pushed the refresh button. It went 501, refresh 502. So they weren't collecting the data properly. It wasn't, properly screened. So the idea is really that this is done to build trust and to be statistically correct, and just generally to be an improvement, but also to be community owned and not something that's just a profit-making tool.
Okay, please.
I'm a librarian. I know how works citations about articles, but you mentioned that you also have the citation of dissertations. How this works?
That requires that a repository has DOIs, so either DataCite or Crossref DOIs, and then we can track the citations. For other articles, we also provide a link to Google Scholar, but there's no API for that.
Hey, any other questions here or online?
Check the chat. It's a dot.
Okay, yep.
Just because I don't know if Luisa is still here from Portugal. Yes, Luisa, if you can hear me, your video was presented first. Yes, Luisa,
Yes.
your video was presented first. So if you want to say something here for the audience or someone would like to ask, Luisa, okay?
Did you present my video?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Do you want to say
Anyone?
something to the audience?
Well, I'm glad to see all of you virtual, and I hope next year I'll be with all of you, and good works in this conference.
Thank you. We hope to see you too next year. And are here any questions? Okay, yeah, please.
I just have one quick one about Israeli public libraries. It's a slight, I don't mean it to be a political question, but you don't have to answer if it's not. But I just wonder, is there any given the way politics are changing in Israel, has there been any change in pressure from politics to increase censorship of any kind in libraries?
That I know of, to my best knowledge, maybe in the future sometime, but not, because even in the main leading party in the current coalition that we have, most of them I would tend to liberal values, and I would say that pressure will not come because in those settlements or cities or towns in which they have public libraries, most of the people are not do not belong to the ultra-religious sector. The ultra-religious sector, usually those people are concentrated in their own towns, their own, I would say, neighborhoods. And they have their own library, public library, in their own neighborhood. And of course, in this certain public library, which serves only this neighborhood, they would apply censorship, you see, but not they would not exert this their influence about the vicinity, the other libraries in the area.
Thank you. We have here a question from the chat, a question for Kalsa. And what was the motivation in using the t-test for the difference in perceptions among gender categories? Seeing that perceptions are not necessarily numeric, I'll assume that non-parametric tests would be more appropriate in this instance. So please, Kalsa. What was the motivation in using the t-test for the difference in perceptions among gender categories? Seeing that perceptions are not necessarily numeric, I'll assume that non-parametric tests would be more appropriate in this instance.
Okay, because we use the quantitative approach, it's a questionnaire. We thought that t-test will give us results about the difference between males and females, how males are acting, how females are acting, how males and females think differently. We know that non-parametric test would give us better results, but because we used the questionnaire and it was a common approach in other studies, so it was the best approach for us.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? We have a couple of minutes left here in the room. None? How about online? Does someone want to ask something? If not, I'll thank you for the interest, and we'll have a 5-minute break. And after that, we'll continue here in this same room. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we start in 4 minutes, okay? The plenary session. Oh. Ανθή, μ' ακούς?
Ναι, σ' ακούω, σε βλέπω.
Πού
Τι
είσαι?
4 λεπτά διάλειμμα, 4 λεπτά σφινάκι καφέ θα πιούνε. Δώσε παραπάνω στο λέω. Μέχρι να βγουν έξω θα περάσουν τα 4 λεπτά.
Για να τελειώσει και το workshop από εκεί.
Εντάξει, οκ, εγώ εδώ είμαι, περιμένω, είμαι έτοιμη, θα κάνω εγώ το share, έτσι.
Αλλά γιατί δεν πάω να σε κάνω presenter τώρα?
Θες να τα πεις εσύ για μένα?
Ξέρω γιατί δεν μπορώ να σε κάνω. Περίμενε λίγο. Περίμενε.
Να βγω και να ξαναμπω.
Όχι, περίμενε. Τώρα πρέπει να είσαι OK.
Πώς να το δω.
Στο...
Εγώ δεν μπορώ να το δω. Εγώ φαίνομαι στους participants, κανονικά. Δεν ξέρω. Να κάνω ένα share screen να το δούμε.
Ναι. OK, δουλεύει. Κάντε
Ναι.
και full screen. Ωραία. Για δοκίμασε, αλλάζουν τα slides.
Σε μένα αλλάζουν, σε εσάς.
Ναι, OK, μια χαρά. Εντάξει.
Okay.
Θα είσαι μόνη σου.
Ναι, γιατί ο Παναγιώτου μιλήσαμε πριν από λίγο. Χθες ήταν στον οδοντίατρο όλο το βράδυ, ήταν για τα γενέθλιά του και δεν μπορεί να μιλήσει καθόλου. Πονάει υπερβολικά πολύ. Οπότε.
Θα πω όμως δύο πράγματα και γι' αυτό είναι από τα βιογραφικά που έχω.
Ναι, φυσικά εννοείται. Ναι, σου λέω θα ήταν. Τώρα μόλις μου έστειλε, γιατί περιμέναμε μέχρι τελευταία στιγμή ότι θα ήταν καλύτερα, αλλά είναι πρισμένος, δεν μπορεί να μιλήσει καθόλου.
OK, εντάξει, έγινε.
Ναι.
Οπότε βάλ το full screen.
Να το βάλω, οκ.
Ναι. OK, εντάξει, τέλεια.
Οκ, περιμένω.
OK, σε ένα λεπτό.
Ναι.
We will start in 5 minutes. Okay, because the workshop in room 2 has not finished yet, okay? So we start in 5 minutes. Okay, we are ready to start.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Okay, we are ready to start. Hello, everyone. You're very welcome to our third plenary session titled Media and Information Literacy and the Right of Access to Information. Let me shortly introduce you the two presenters. Professor Nikos Panagiotou is Associate Professor at the Department of Journalism and Media of the Aristotle University. He has been a visiting professor of Deutsche Welle Academy, Japan International University, Chevening Scholar of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in UK, Fellow of Google, DAD at Deutsche Welle, University's RSAP Scholar, University of Japan, Beijing Foreign Studies University, Sabanci University, as well as international scholarships at the University of Luxembourg. He has important research project with the most special one funded by Google. He is in charge of the Thessaloniki International Media Summer Academy, member of Task Force General Secretariat of Information and Communication for Security Journalist and Scientific Advisor of the Center for Foreign Design Policy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His research interests focus on international journalism, media literacy, security journalists, crisis management. The second presenter is Anthi Balyu. He is a PhD candidate in the field of literacy in digital mobile media at the Department of Journalism and Mass Media of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki and the senior researcher at the Peace Journalism Lab. At the same time, she works as a librarian at the Library of the University of Macedonia. She holds a master's degree in management of cultural units from Hellenic Open University. She has participated in various research projects as a research assistant and a project manager on the field of news, cross-referencing, disinformation, and media literacy. Also, she teaches as an academic scholar at the School of Library Information Systems in the International Hellenic University. Her research interests include information, news and media literacy, misinformation, propaganda and fake news, social influence of the media and social media, community engagement. So we welcome here today only Anthi, who is going to present. Thank you very much, Anthi. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Antonis. Unfortunately, Dr. Panagiotou had an urgent dentist issue last night, so he couldn't speak today. He sent his regards and wishes every success in the conference. I hope you're everybody well. So thank you for inviting us. Our topic for today is media and information literacy and the right of access to information. Just to make a short introduction, media and information literacy is about accessing news, analyzing information to determine if it's true or false, reflecting on one's own media behavior, and creating media content. But it is also about acting. This is a major threat for the liberal democracies which are based on information. Democracy is a system that is based on the information that people have, because they made their choices, their political choices, according to their own perceptions and information that they receive. If the information is toxic, democracy cannot work. If information is manipulated, people don't have a clear idea of what is going on. So their choices are biased, and the information is a vital component of democracy. Media information literacy should include the right to access to information as well as the quality of the information provided. Media information literacy critical component is the protection of digital rights. So, the aim of this presentation is to underline the significance of media information literacy and the right to access information exploring their intertwined nature and their impact on empowering individuals and upholding democracy. In this case, media and information literacy involves citizens and informed decisions. By developing critical thinking skills, media and information literacy enables citizens to question and challenge dominant narratives, fostering a more diverse and inclusive media landscape. It encourages also active participation in public discourse, enabling citizens to engage in constructive dialogue and hold authorities accountable. Media and information literacy also equips individuals with the ability to recognize and challenge misinformation, fake news, and disinformation, safeguarding the integrity of democratic processes. What are the challenges in media information literacy? First of all, there is a digital divide and unequal access to information. Secondly, the main challenge is the rapid spread of misinformation and disinformation. Also, the issue of privacy and data protection concerns. In addition, the global COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the global move towards the digital in all aspects of life, including learning and employment. This underscores a number of global inequalities, not limited to only the digital divide, presenting challenges to international understanding, cooperation, peace, and education. The impact of digital technologies on societies is fundamentally changing the ways in which individuals access, produce, and share knowledge. What is the right to access information? First of all, is a fundamental human right that recognizes and protects individuals' entitlement to seek, to receive, and to impart information held by public authorities or entities. It also guarantees that citizens have the right to access official documents, records, data, and other forms of information that are relevant to public affairs, decision-making processes, and the overall functioning of a democratic society. In practice, the right to information ensures transparency, accountability, and the free flow of information within a society. It also enables citizens to stay informed, participate in public discourse, and hold governments, public institutions, and officials accountable for their actions and decisions. By exercising this right, individuals can engage in critical analysis, evaluate public policies, monitor the use of public resources, and make informed decisions in various aspects of their lives. Our human rights were adopted in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. More than 70 years later, they are still the most fundamental laws we have. So in 1948, we have the Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In 1966, we have the Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And in 2017, we have recommendation of the OECD Council on Open Government. Why it is important to have the right to access information? It helps first of all individuals to make the decisions based on correct data. It is a necessary condition to combat corruption and mismanagement of public funds. It contributes actively to the support of scientific research. It is necessary to detect violations and to protect rights. It establishes also the supports the democratic and participatory practice of governance. And one of the most important mechanisms is helping journalists to gather the facts and data necessary to fulfill their professional function. Now, in 1946, we have the General Assembly of the United Nations unanimously, which adopted a resolution of freedom of information which says, freedom of information is a fundamental human right and is the touchstone of all the freedoms to which the United Nations is consecrated. Media information literacy is about citizens learning how to navigate cyberspace, access news, analyzing what information is true or false, and reflect on what they do online and how they can be a role model for others. Media information literacy is also about ensuring that citizens possess the skills to access, understand, and use the internet and a variety of media. It is about creatively engaging with current media and societal issues and actively participating in creating and protecting a public sphere which is respectful, pluralistic, and engaged. Our digital sphere is becoming more controversial, more complex, and more political, making media information literacy even more relevant. Issues related to digital rights have a tremendous influence on all competencies citizens need to navigate our media landscape. Disinformation is by no means a new concern, yet a recent report of the UN Secretary General aims to address the phenomenon of disinformation in the context of new and rapidly evolving communications landscape due to innovative technologies which have enabled the dissemination of unparalleled volumes of content at unprecedented. The phenomenon of disinformation poses a multiplicity of challenges in different ways. The coronavirus disease pandemic has provided a powerful example of the potentially enormous consequences of disinformation relating to health for entire societies, including the possible loss of many lives. The spread of misinformation in electoral contexts may diminish public trust in the credibility of processes, undermining the right to political participation. Now, what information can be accessed? You may request access to any recorded information, whatever its history, form or medium, which has been produced or obtained by the entities subject to the provisions of the law on access to information during the exercise of their activities. You may also request access to any information regardless of your status, your interest in obtaining such information, or your relationship to it. You may also request access to any information you choose, and you are not to be questioned for making a request, no matter what information is being sought. So, the right to information, freedom of information, and access to information are often used to mean the same thing. Some experts argue that access to information is a more generalized and wider concept than the other two. Freedom of information, of expression, and access to information can be subject to certain restrictions meeting specific criteria. To be lawful, in accordance with Article 19 of the Covenant, such restrictions must be provided by law and be necessary for the respect of the rights or reputations of others, or for the protection of national security, or for public order, or for public health or morals. So, the right to information is essentially for both democracy and development. Citizens have the right to free speech and the right of access to public information as basic human rights. UNESCO defines freedom of information as the right to access information held by public bodies or by private bodies performing public functions or performing functions with public interest. Public domain information is equally the property of citizens. Content providers such as libraries, archives, museums, media, digital communication companies should help to ensure the right to freedom of information for its citizens. So digital transformation has fundamentally changed the conditions for realizing global education for peace and sustainable development. With 63% of the world's population on the internet, the way that citizens access and understand information is tightly interwoven with digital infrastructure. Digital technologies, including artificial intelligence, is also spurring innovation in teaching and learning processes and pedagogies. So, freedom of information and expression underpin media and information literacy. In this context, the use of the related term freedom of information refers to access to public information. Information is key to our understanding of the world around us, our ability to find a meaningful role in it, and our capacity to take advantage of the resources available to us. When information is concentrated in the hands of a few, the public's ability both to make decisions and to assess these decisions is greatly reduced. An ethical and pluralistic media can ensure transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. However, the challenges implicated in the issue of access to information in today's digital landscape should not be viewed through the lens of any single actor. Governments, the educational field, the media sector, and not least internet companies are all implicated in shaping access to information. The role of content providers is changing with the rapid spread of digital technologies, such as information and communication technologies, social media, artificial intelligence. Content providers, including public authorities holding official records, are able to provide new services. This offers new opportunities for effectively and efficiently meeting the needs of citizens for lifelong learning, research, entertainment, and for connecting communities. So in this context, access to data and algorithms organizing data into information is becoming an important issue. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights protect the right to hold opinions without interference. As indicated by the Human Rights Committee, this right includes the rights to form one's opinion, to change one's opinion, and to develop opinions by way of reasoning, as well as the right not to express any opinion. All forms of opinion are protected, including opinions of a political, scientific, historic, moral, or religious nature. Criminalizing the holding of an opinion or harassing, intimidating, stigmatizing, arresting, detaining, putting on trial, or imprisoning a person simply for opinions they may hold is incompatible with Article 19. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 19 of the Covenant also protect the right to freedom of expression, including the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers and through any media, either in speech, in writing, or in print, in the form of art, or through any other media of one's choice. The human right to freedom of expression is not limited to favorably received information, but covers ideas and information that may shock, offend, or disturb, irrespective of the truth or falsehood of the content. As the Human Rights Committee has made clear, the general prohibition of expressions of erroneous opinions or incorrect interpretations of past events is not permitted under the Covenant. So, the right to access information is a critical component of media information literacy. First of all, it empowers individuals. The right to access information empowers individuals by giving them the tools to seek, receive, and impart information freely. It enables individuals to be active participants in society, make informed decisions, and engage in public discourse. By having access to a diverse range of information, individuals can broaden their perspectives and develop a more comprehensive understanding of complex issues. Secondly, it ensures informed decision making. Media and information literacy aims to develop critical thinking skills, and the right to access information provides the necessary resources for individuals to make informed decisions. Access to accurate and reliable information is essential for citizens to assess different perspectives, evaluate evidence, and form opinions based on facts. It helps individuals avoid being swayed by misinformation, propaganda, or biased narratives. Thirdly, it promotes transparency and accountability. The right to access information promotes transparency and accountability in both public and private sectors. When individuals have access to information about government policies, actions, and decision-making processes, they can hold authorities accountable for their actions. It allows citizens to participate actively in democratic processes, demand transparency from institutions, and monitor the performance of public officials. Fourth, it combats misinformation and disinformation. In an era of widespread misinformation and disinformation, the right to access information becomes a crucial tool in combating falsehoods. Media and information literacy empowers individuals to critically evaluate information resources, fact-check claims, and discern reliable information from fake news. By having access to a variety of trustworthy sources, individuals can cross-reference information and verify its accuracy, thereby reducing the impact of misinformation on society. And fifth, it bridges the digital divide. Access to information is essential for bridging the digital divide and addressing inequalities in society. Media and information literacy aims to equip individuals with the skills to navigate and utilize digital platforms effectively. However, without access to the internet and information resources, marginalized communities may further be marginalized. Ensuring universal access to information is vital for promoting digital inclusion and empowering all individuals, regardless of their socioeconomic background. So, media information literacy and the right to access information are inherently interconnected. Media and information literacy skills empower individuals to exercise the right to access information effectively. By developing critical evaluation skills, individuals can discern between reliable and misleading information sources, ensuring the right to access accurate and truthful information. Media and information literacy also helps bridge the digital divide as individuals with enhanced literacy skills can navigate and utilize digital platforms to access a wide range of information. To conclude the remarks, a renewed emphasis on promoting international standards and norms on freedom of expression, safety of journalists, and universal access to information. Promoting media information literacy for all to empower women and men of all ages to think critically and how they engage with information, media, and technology. Last but not least, as José Manuel Pérez Tornero, the director of UNESCO Chair for Media and Information Literacy for Quality Journalism, Media and Information Literacy in Journalism said, without language, there is no humanity. Without journalism, There is no democracy. Without media information literacy, there is no democratic human conversation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Wathi. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation, really.
Thank you very much.
And comments from people here or people in distance. Luisa, yes?
I'm sorry. It was a mistake.
She
But
just
I
wanted
like
to
very
wait.
much
She wanted to
the-
wait.
Yes, it was a very good presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthi, for your contribution to the conference.
Wish you the best of luck to the rest of the conference. Say hi to everyone, Andonis.
Okay.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we have a break. 30 minutes break for coffee, okay? And then we continue with room 1 here and room 2, okay, with 2 sessions. Okay, thank you very much. Ευχαριστούμε, Ανθή.
Περάσετε όμορφα, πιείτε τεράκες και για μας. Ηρώ που είσαι.
Έλα και εσύ να πεις, ξέρω.
Φιλιά.
Να είσαι καλά.
I'm sorry. What time is here?
What time?
Yes,
Here in Crete. In
yes.
Greece, 11.
Oh,
11.
thank you, thank you.
Okay.
In Lisbon, it's very early. Thank you, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Oh.
Εγώ εκεί θα κάτσει δίπλα η άλλη και θα σε κοιτούμαστε. Εσύ φώναξε. Τραγούδα.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning.
Αγγελική, μας ακούς? Από Πειραιά.
Από Θεσσαλονίκη ακούμε.
Αγγελική, μας ακούς?
Yeah, no, it's just taking a
We start in 4 minutes, okay?
We're ready.
So we are ready to start, please.
Hello,
Good.
everyone. Our first presentation will be presented tomorrow, so I'm not going to say anything about this presentation.
Are we gonna take it? Do you want us to go ahead and get started?
Sorry. Wait a
Do
second.
you want us to go ahead and get started, or are you doing any introductions?
Just a moment. Our first presentation is Reimaging the Leader-by Libraries, a futuristic look. Esra Nawar and Kevin Ross. Will you introduce yourselves?
Yes, of course. Good morning. My name is Kevin Ross.
And I am Esra Nawar from the Leatherby Libraries from all the way from Orange County, California.
Good day to each and every one of you.
Okay, you can start your presentation.
Sounds good. Today, my colleague and I, Esra Nawar, we're going to share a Reimagining the Leatherby Libraries, a futuristic look. We are librarians at Chapman University in Orange, California, and we focused on 8 main areas. Our organizational redesign, which we pivoted to focus on research, also services, resources, how we maximized and optimized our space within the library, the new technologies that we've included in our services, how we develop our librarians and our staff in particular, our robust programming, including the exhibits, displays, and events that we create on a regular basis, and what we do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. In regards to organizational redesign, you can see the graphic on the right, and we have 5 main areas or departments within the library: administration, resources, special collections, archives, access, and research. Why a organizational redesign? We did that to create a nimble library organization so that we could align our job duties and responsibilities and emphasize our focus on data services and research support. This was a recommendation that came out from 2 consultants that we worked with for approximately 18 months. In addition, another benefit was that it aligned our Leatherby Library strategic plan in support of research with our university strategic plan. It also provides opportunities for retention and succession planning and upward mobility for our staff and our librarians. Highlights, and I won't read all of these to you, but a couple of things that were pretty interesting to us at least. We established our first ever university archivist in Chapman University history. We also created a new position, the Assistant Dean of Library Research and Data Services, which I'll talk about in just a couple of moments. We established our first ever Coordinator of Diversity and Development position. And we were able to recruit a STEM librarian, a health sciences librarian, a data services librarian, and copyright librarian, all without additional funding from the university. Finally, we did ship off one of our librarians who was a tech person, and that person now is the Director of Research Computing in our IS&T department. So we have a partnership with our IS&T colleagues as well. Services that we provide, we have 2 main campuses, the main campus here in Orange and a health sciences campus in Irvine, California. At the health sciences campus, we've just instituted recently interlibrary loan services, circulation services, a new study commons reservation system, and we've increased the hours of both our staff and our accessibility, in addition to providing some new technologies for students' use. On the main campus, we included another interlibrary loan process on top of our current one, TIPASA, known as Rapid IOL. This one has a 24-hour or less turnaround. We've also infused data literacy instruction into our information literacy program. We've emphasized and focused open educational resources and open access and the creation of data services workshop. We've even sent 2 of our librarians to a 1-year certification in open educational resources. And new technologies have been included at the main campus as well. To highlight, our library research and data services is led by Dr. Doug Decco, our Assistant Dean for Library Research and Data Services. And we have a robust team of 6 individual librarians, and you can see their specialties on the left. Some emphasize the research cycle, some emphasize data or information literacy, some emphasize research data management. On the right, you can see the committee's charge, and basically we're responsible to support undergraduates, graduates, faculty, and staff throughout the research cycle. Main elements of our library research and data services plan is a consultation room and a consultation process. This will discuss the data that they need, the research tools that may be able to address that data, and how to analyze statistics. In addition, we provide a wealth of training workshops. Our goal is to get approximately 12 to 15 workshops in place that cover the research cycle, and eventually we'd like to turn that into a micro-credential process. On the back end, we work very diligently on creating a wide variety of diverse data sets that we can make accessible to our students and faculty researchers. And on the front end, we've developed a website, and we will continue to increase that website, and we hope to infuse it with some data visualization aspects as well. All of this was based on an article from Radecki and Springer on research data services that came out from Ithaca. In addition, we're partnering with Ithaca for the next 2 years as part of a cohort plan to study what we do at the university and in the library in regards to research and data services. LRDS model, Library Research and Data Services model, really includes workshops, the tools that we will provide, including R, SPSS, Panda, Python, Tableau, Qualtrics, TDM Studio, etc. But not only the workshops and tools, but the librarian's expertise to be able to walk people through the process. So far, we've delivered Introduction to Basics of Data Literacy using TDM Studio for music research, and we have some upcoming workshops that you can see on the right-hand side planned for 2022 and 2023, and additional workshops in 24 and 25. The next couple of slides are listing just a wealth of resources that we've currently purchased for student use. And we've really tried to focus on 2 main areas. We've tried to focus on research support, and we also have tried to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion resources as well. So you can see a wide variety here. I won't read the list to you, but a couple of the highlight, LGBT Magazine Archive, our update to ProQuest historical newspapers, Black historical newspapers in particular, and what we've done in regards to our physical therapy books and acquisitions for our health library at the Rinker campus. Additional resources have focused mainly on research. I want to highlight specifically Sage Campus, if you're not familiar with that one. That one has about 30 different modules in there, 250 hours, and covers a lot of really interesting information on data services, data visualization, how to analyze data, artificial intelligence, systematic and literature reviews, and a wide variety of other research aspects that are very helpful. In addition, we have pivoted to support our minors in gender studies, disability studies, LGBTQIA+ studies, Latinx studies, Asian studies, and Africana studies, and we've done this through the acquisition of DEI-related resources. Space optimization is important for all of us. When our library was built originally, it was designed for 5,000 students. We currently have 10,000 students, so we have to be very thoughtful about how we optimize our space. One thing that we did recently is we took our physical faculty publications that were on display, and we pivoted those to put those digitally online in a rotating display. All of these materials are located physically within the Leatherby libraries, and this gives us another way to highlight our faculty's publications and faculty research. Additional ways that we've optimized space. We took our library instruction room, we invested approximately $90,000. We put in brand new seating, stadium seating, new tables, new chairs, new technology, new lighting, new carpet. We did a wall treatment on the wall. And it's been very popular for our students and our researchers to use this room. And we teach approximately 250 to 300 of these instruction sessions in an academic year. touching approximately 4,500 to 5,000 of our students regularly. Additionally, because we're lucky enough to live in California, we have really good sunny weather, 300 days plus a year. We've been able to transform our Fashionables Terrace into an outside study area for student research. We've provided new comfortable furniture. We've enhanced the Wi-Fi experience. We've provided outdoor seating and shading. We've increased our security cameras and enhanced lighting so that our students feel safe, not only during the day, but into the evening as well. Other areas that we're working on is space optimization. Currently, I'm involved in a space feasibility study working with our campus planning colleagues and an architectural firm to identify exactly the flow of where things can fit within our libraries. It's been very helpful. We recently updated 8 of our study and media rooms, and we plan on renovating 13 more this next fiscal year. Additionally, we've partnered with our colleagues in the Center for Excellence Teaching and Learning to create a presentation studio and eventually a podcast room as well. We've also focused on research and data visualization services and identified those spaces within the library. Finally, our big focus is going to be on artificial intelligence and machine learning as we create an analog and digital makerspace, including 3D printing, makerspace, virtual reality, and data visualization. But last but not least, we also value our staff and want to make sure that our staff morale has been increased. So we're going to redo our staff lounge with new furniture and new options for our staff as well. In regards to state-of-the-art technology, just a few listings here. We have WEPA cloud printing, which is very helpful. We have a short story dispenser, which allows us to print out 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute short stories, poems, or comics from our Chapman University students. We partnered with our IS&T colleagues on the acquisition of this particular product, and we launched it during a short story conference here at the university, and it's been very popular. We've also increased our digital footprint by adding digital whiteboards and digital directories throughout the library. State-of-the-art technology that we've done at this time. We've gone around and we've removed old monitors that were 14-inch. We've put in brand new 22-inch monitors. We've put in docking stations throughout the library because a lot of our students and researchers now have their own laptops. We put in brand new 65-inch television sets in all of our study rooms and increased the technology, including Apple TV and streaming services. We've also additionally purchased 3 recent scanners, a book scanner, a planetary scanner for our digital archives, and a 3D scanner where we can actually scan 3D objects now and get those accessible online.
5 minutes.
In regards to our librarian staff and student development, we're strong believers in developing our staff and librarians professionally. Not only do we send them to webinars, seminars, and conferences, but we provide technology to take with them, whether that's a portable LCD player, Bose headphones so that they have a comfortable flight, and lots of other technical aspects that we provide to them. We've set aside robust amounts of money to emphasize the importance of data analysis, research, data visualization, and because our librarians are often strapped for time and stretched fairly thin, I've actually reached out to one of our staff members who's agreed to go to a certification for GIS, and he will now join our library research and data services team as part of that element. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Esra Nawar. Esra?
All right, thank you so much, Dean Ross. And I'm aware, I think the chair of the session mentioned that we are about 4 minutes away, so we're going to wrap this up in just a couple of minutes. I mean, as I'm reflecting on all the things that you've said, Kevin, on over the last couple of years and the way we reimagined the Leatherby Library's activities and resources and everything that we provided. Also, from my perspective, we did a lot of reimagining and redefining for our programming, exhibits, and events as we engaged the students, the faculty, and the staff, and the community. Those are just some of the examples of the collaborative efforts and the partnerships that we've had throughout the campus and the community, such as some that are highlighting the students and their identities, when we collaborated with the Dean of Students with the I Am Chapman exhibit, an exhibit that we're committed to showcase on a yearly basis. We also have yearly and monthly displays that are curated by the students that sometimes speak to current topics or current monthly events or some historical events as well. We've hosted some panels. One of them was a woman leaders panel that actually got the attention and the success of a lot of the leaders of the university as well as the libraries. We also partner with some local high school students here with some of our Latinx students and Latinx exhibits to showcase their stories as well as their artistic abilities. We have a community of readers program that encourages people to read books and electronic resources. We have a staff art exhibit, and we also have collaborations across campus pretty much with every single school and college and department. I'm not going to speak a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion because we had the pleasure of presenting a full presentation yesterday about redefining and reimagining our diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in a nutshell, we have a robust website that was created about a year ago after Kevin had tasked me to be the coordinator of diversity initiatives. As he'd mentioned earlier, it is the first ever position in the Leatherby Libraries, and the whole core focus of the plan that we worked on was reimagining diversity as well realigning our efforts of the Leatherby Libraries. We've gotten a couple of awards already about our diversity efforts, nation and international wide. And it's been a pleasure working with everyone on campus and making our efforts organic and as well as collective. And that's really what we wanted to make sure that everybody inside the building is actually invested in this effort. At this point, I just want to point out that this is our website for the DEI. You can also go to the chapman.edu/library to see all the efforts that Kevin has talked about. We have a robust blog. We blog about 2 or 3 times a week that talk about our resources, events, and exhibits. And our blog is actually an award-winning blog, and we're really proud of the content that we provide out to the students as well as the community. We want to really thank you for the opportunity. It's almost 2 a.m. here, so we're not jealous at all that all of you are in Crete, but maybe next time we will join you in person as well. Please reach out to us if you have any questions about our presentation.
Thank you very much. I forgot to mention the title of the session. It's Tracing the Future of the Libraries and Information Centers. I'm sorry. Our second presentation is Academic Libraries as Welcoming Co-working Spaces for Digital Nomads. It's Αγγελική Γαρουφάλη and Elizabeth Handaperidou. University of Macedonia?
University of Thessaly.
University of Thessaly. So you can introduce...
To university. Can I share my...
Yes, Angeliki, you are the presenter. You can share your screen, okay?
Yes.
Your full screen again.
Yeah. It's okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Good morning. Can I start?
Yes.
Good morning from Larissa. I would like to be with you there in Crete, but unfortunately it was not possible. I am glad to be with you online today and to share with you views and concerns about academic libraries as co-working spaces for digital nomads and not only for nomads, of course. So today we'll give a simple definition of co-working spaces, a brief history of co-working spaces, how we call the co-working spaces with the other names. I'll talk about learning commons, co-working spaces in Greece, and we'll give you some information about digital nomads. So it's a common admission that work places are changing, especially in the post-COVID area. We all saw during the gardening that there are different ways to work, that we knew until a few years ago at least, and we're slowly realizing that we're moving towards a new age in the workplace at least. So the nature of work as we know it is changing, flexible ways of working are increasing, and as remote working and hybrid working continue to become more popular, co-working spaces are increasing, diversifying, and improving constantly. But what exactly is a co-working space? A co-working space is an environment that's designed to welcome people who come to do work. Co-working space is characterized by shared facilities, services, and tools. And because a picture is equal to 1,000 words, here is a photo of a co-working space in Leeds, in Great Britain. We see one of the many different spaces that this co-working space includes. And I choose this because we can say that this space could be a library space too. So, a brief history of co-working space. Let's make a short trip back in time to see how co-working spaces began. And here I would say that if we want to understand the future of co-working, we need to look at its history. So in 1990, Bernard de Koven coins the phrase co-working. The term refers to something different than today's concept of co-working. He is a game designer. He uses co-working to refer to the way we work, not the space that we work in. He hopes to involve ways of working that involves collaboration, a breakdown of hierarchy, and seeing co-workers as equals. In 1995, C-Base is Berlin, was among the first hacker spaces around, and many now consider this hacker space was the beginning of today's co-working spaces. In 1999, the iBook arrives and make our lives easier. 2007, the word co-working was first seen on Google, and their searches increased immediately and entered the English version of Wikipedia. In 2019, global financial crisis is a factor that affected the creation of more co-working spaces. To end the COVID-19 pandemic hits and changes the way people work. And 2023, co-working spaces will be 42,000 until 2024. So, other names of co-working spaces: community centers, social spaces, hacker spaces, fab labs, collaborative learning environments. All these spaces represent new forms of collaborative working practices that have emerged as a result of technological, economic, and social transformations on the global map. They are immersive environments that provide workers and students with the technology, resources, and tools they need to create new ideas and promote them. Professionals, students, and digital nomads share their interests, meet and work on projects using the technological equipment provided, collaborate, be productive, and learn from each other, peer-to-peer. These different kinds of spaces have attracted the interest of individuals who, in one way or another, profit from knowledge sharing and from being involved in collective innovation processes. Such resources can be tangible resources like printers, machine, prototyping tools, or intangible resources such as new knowledge, professional networking, training, or mentoring. So, what someone could find in a co-working space? Of course, the first is he can save money. A nice atmosphere, Wi-Fi, printing, new technologies, flexible work schedules, all day maybe, noise if he wants, music if he wants, silence if he wants, a variety of sitting options, the sense of community belonging, it's very important. collaboration, privacy, coffee. So the origin of all the spaces that I mentioned may be linked to different logic, but they are certainly related to the need of a company, an organization, or a group of people with a common interest to meet, gather, and share equally. As you can see from the words that describe and coexist in these spaces, like common, shared, collaboration, common purpose, sense of community, their roots are in the feelings of togetherness, in equal contribution in the commons. So let's go to 21st century libraries, the learning commons. Learning commons are moving in the same direction. Learning commons are also rooted in the commons. The explanation of the approach of the commons is another presentation. And in fact, they are the attempt of libraries to respond to technological, economic, and social changes, to the decline of the users, and to the needs of new user groups, such as millennials, Generation Z, who work differently and learn differently. So, learning commons seems to follow this path of evolution and are living and active organizations that are there for the community for which they were founded. They are user-oriented and focused on the needs of the users. They understand their role as meeting points for the community they are addressing. The fact that we see libraries investing in impressive buildings like this is not accidental. It is a sign that their importance and their contribution to the community are being recognized. So to give a definition for learning commons, represent a collaborative space that provides computer and library resources, as well as a range of laboratories, maker spaces, digital media labs, data visualization labs, virtual reality labs, writing centers, with academic services that support students' collaboration and learning. Learning commons are different spaces. They are based on the principles of commons. Some principles of commons I can give is managing resources for collective benefit in ways that are fair, inclusive, participatory, and that can evolve into the future. Sharing, caring for the other people, collaboration, new ideas, peer-to-peer learning. They have open spaces that encourage participatory practices, creativity, critical thinking. There are spaces without barriers, support multiple connections, digital and human connections, include labs and maker spaces, and for this reason can work and function as co-working spaces. And they sponsor a new role of librarians, embedded librarians, that they are librarians that are focused on the learning process and they are a piece of collaborative learning puzzle. They are make connections in the community and strong relationships inside or out of the campus. And the common space, of course, can be created in any type of library. The reconfiguration of library space to promote collaborative learning, the addition of high-tech infrastructures, the open access movement, the user-centered services, peer-to-peer learning, the creation of physical and digital content in the creative labs, the socialization spaces within libraries, and in many cases, the renaming of libraries as learning commons are key elements of change that suggest their future present. These renovations create spaces for co-working spaces. They provide a great environment for freelancers, entrepreneurs, digital nomads, and other independent specialists to meet, to work, to interact, to find new ideas, to innovate. Libraries have always been at the heart of the communities they serve. To survive in the digital age and stay relevant, academic libraries need to be brave and innovative. They must embrace both the physical and virtual. What someone could find in Learning Commons. It's free for the members of affordable or have affordable subscription. A nice atmosphere, Wi-Fi, printing, new technologies, flexible working schedules, physically digital resources, a variety of seating options, a variety of space options, noisy or quiet, help from librarians, the sense of community and belonging, collaboration, meeting rooms of privacy, coffee. These services are very similar or in many cases the same as the services that co-working spaces offer. Our option is that academic libraries must be open to the community's needs, must collaborate with the community, and be a co-working space for the people who need this service in our days is only the beginning. So, Elizabeth will talk about Greece.
Yes, hello, greetings everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're watching this video from. I'm Elizabeth Hadavaridou. Thank you very much for the invitation. Congratulations to the organizing committee of this conference. And thank you to the Hellenic Mediterranean University for hosting this very interesting conference. Angeliki and I are here to talk about co-working spaces in academic libraries and how we can attract digital nomads in our spaces. The interesting point here in Greece is that we in academic libraries work for public institutions, which means that we provide our services for free, and our funding comes from taxpayers. So thank you, Angeliki. Please move.
Okay.
Okay. There are we're starting to see the co-working spaces in private spaces, private businesses, and in libraries now in Greece. An example is the Geta Institute Library in Athens. You can see it on your screen, which is a very beautiful space with seems very new, brand new, and it's very attractive to the eye and very welcoming for someone to go there, sit and just relax or study. Thank you, Angeliki. Co-working spaces are appearing now in academic libraries as well. We have an example here from the University of Patras, which is a city here in Greece. They have created some co-working spaces for either 4 or 6 people or even on a singular basis, where people can work and write on the wall. The wall is actually a writing board. They can work together and make Zoom calls, and according to their director, they will start thinking about renting these spaces out to private citizens for a minimal cost. Thank you, Angeliki. These are some more photos from the library. Thank you, Angeliki. There's also the Eugenides Foundation Library. We like this space really a lot. So you can see here another beautiful space, attractive, where you can just sit on the armchairs, on the tables. You can see on your screen. Very relaxing, and who wouldn't want to sit there and use their services? Thank you, Angeliki. Now, these co-working spaces, are they addressed only to our users, the students and the members of the staff of our universities? We believe that we could reach out to the community, to the digital nomad. Who is a digital nomad? The definition is that a digital nomad is a category of mobile professionals who perform their work remotely from anywhere in the world, utilizing digital technologies, while digital nomadism refers to the lifestyle that is developed by these highly mobile, location-independent professionals. Thank you, Angeliki. This idea seemed very interesting to us, and we thought, why not attract these people and make them our users? The government is already pushing forward legislation that seeks to interconnect universities and libraries to society, and the Greek government has decided to attract digital nomads. Back in 2021, on 4th of September, they issued a law which provided a new visa for digital nomads, people who want to become digital nomads and visit Greece. This text is in Greece. Sorry for that, but our next slide, thank you, Angeliki, will give you a definition of what is a visa for a digital nomad in Greece. As you can see, these visas are available only for people who are not from the European Union, European Economic Area, or Switzerland. Everyone else will have to issue one of these visas, and you can see details here. You have to earn 3,500 per month after taxes, how long you can stay, and there are many websites that give you much detailed information how to become a digital nomad in Greece. Of course, you can choose the details from any website. I've chosen a website which is under the auspices of the Hellenic government. Thank you, Angeliki. Which is the next slide. Here it is. It's workfromgreece.gr. This is where I found some very interesting information. You can visit it, find more about how to issue a visa, where to stay, and where to find co-working spaces. For us, Angeliki and me, we thought this could be a place, our universities could be on that list as co-working spaces for digital nomads. Now, I'm working here in Thessaloniki, which is another city in Greece, and I've chosen to show you some spaces in Thessaloniki, some co-working spaces from private businesses like Coho, I4G Pro, Office Club, and Rational Data. You can see very nice spaces for a few people, for many people, cozy or more official looking. Thank you, Angeliki. Now, the internet speed is a very interesting factor, a very important factor, and why someone should visit a country as a digital nomad. Internet is very important, of course, because if you have a slow connection, why visit that country? You need more than the sun and the beaches and the Greek islands. Greece, as you can see, its median country speed ranks 95 on the Speed Test Global Index, with a median speed of 44.25 megabits per second, which is pretty good. But if you want to attract digital nomads, I'm sure that they will check out the speed in your country. Thank you, Angeliki. So what services could we find in these private businesses? An example from SpaceMate Leeds in the UK shows us that they provide a fully equipped kitchen, breakout spaces, a speedy Wi-Fi. Here you see how important speed is. Secure 24/7 access, lockers, they are dog friendly, they provide bike storage, tea, coffee, Zoom rooms, showers, and so on. Thank you, Angeliki. What happens here in Greece? We have some prices, the price menu, and the services that they provide. An example from the Office Club. You can see, you can visit them from 10 euros per day or 100 euros per month if you want to use their offices. And there are more services that are a bit more expensive. Thank you, Angeliki. Then there is I4G Pro. This is their price menu on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. They start from 30 euros per day. And we thought, why not attract these people to our libraries? If only we could provide these rooms for private citizens, they wouldn't have to pay this amount. So what do we need to become more friendly to digital nomads? We need to, besides, of course, spaces and fast internet, we need to become familiar with new technologies, and we need new skills as librarians. We need to become familiar with cloud systems like iCloud, Dropbox, Google Drive, WeTransfer, Slack, WD, and OneDrive. So in case someone asks for our help, we need to assist them. We need to provide good connecting apps like Facebook Workplace, WhatsApp, video conferencing, Skype, Soma, IMO video calls, GoToMeeting, and Zoom, of course. So when someone shows us that they have a problem with one of these services, we are able to help them. One other skill that sorry, Gilki, could you go back to the previous one? Is we should offer new scanning areas and provide scanning technologies like Microsoft Office Scanner, Scanner Pro, Tiny Scanner, and Evernote. And of course, there are much more skills that we could develop, like data visualization, like the previous very interesting presentation from Leatherby University was very interesting. What we want to point out, Geliki and I, is that we need to hear the wheels that are turning. We need to hear the government that is telling us to interconnect with society, and perhaps why not attract digital nomads if we want to keep our funding, if we want to keep our jobs and our libraries and our universities as welcoming places, not only for our students, for our society as well. If not, we will not only stay stagnant, but we might see libraries closing in a few years due to our services being provided by private businesses in the end. So this is it from me. Our contact details are on the last slide. Thank you, Angeliki. Some references, and our contact information is this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Angeliki.
Stop.
Is Emmanuel Leggi Adebayo with us? Emmanuel? No. Our next presentation is Engaging Citizens and Communities, a public history approach for libraries, and it's from Chiara De Vecchis. Introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Chiara De Vecchis. I'm the contact person of the Italian Libraries Association in the scientific committee of the Italian Association for the Public History. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some reflections in such an inspiring conference. Yesterday, I heard so many ideas matching with some of the points of the issues I would like to point out today, and I hope there will be a mutual exchange of points of view. To introduce a public history approach for libraries and to promote it as a way of engaging communities, the starting point, which I think all of us agree on, is okay. The starting point is that libraries are, or we believe they must be, agents of connections. And the question is, can they also connect people with their history, making feel the past as living and operating in the present? I think that, yes, library may promote a shared vision of our roots as a driving force for social inclusion, helping overcome the barriers made by different representations of history. They can struggle against cognitive bias, hidden in being stick to our representations of the past, of the social groups we are living in. But why is it so important, I believe? Being promoters of historical knowledge among communities means also raising civic awareness. So it means becoming an effective vehicle for democracy, as professional literature suggests libraries to be. It's not only dealing with historical disciplines, it's not just something relevant for a library specialized in historical collections. It's a matter of lifelong education and of dialogue between we and our users and between libraries and citizens. But given all that, how can libraries do the purpose of this presentation is to suggest a choice of possible strategies by recalling, first of all, some background and some definition from the literature on public history, by suggesting connections with the library field and getting inspired by worldwide experiences and reflecting on their outputs. So first, let's take a step back to the context. Libraries' commitment in engaging communities has even increased in the last decades, also by coping with social changes and new technologies, which may imply in turn opportunities and challenges. A growing phenomenon that libraries should consider is that the web, especially social networks, act as amplifiers. They give voice to self-representations of people and social groups seeking for visibility, especially within the communities whose stories have been neglected, untold, or miscommunicated. Let's think about ethnic or linguistic minorities, LGBTQ+ communities, and we could go on. This fosters a widespread need of history, not considered just as a chronological chain of facts, but as a search for roots, a history perceived in deep connection with people's lives and identities, feeling the past as operating in the present to build the future. This trend is empowered by the global debate of the last decades on cultural heritage, a reflection tracing a revolution in cultural policies. 20 years ago, the UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage pointed out the role of the communities towards this kind of heritage. A few years later, the so-called Convention of Faro, which is still in force since more than 10 years, but still being ratified by some countries. The convention was based upon the idea that participating in cultural heritage and in cultural life must be actually considered among human rights. So if dealing with our cultural heritage is a human right, then the knowledge of this heritage, the knowledge of the past, stops being just an educational requirement and becomes something very personal. The Faro Conventions also consider cultural heritage as a part of the economic development model based on the principle of sustainable resource use. And when talking about sustainability and global horizons and cultural heritage, we can't forget at least two of the sustainable development goals promoted by United Nations. The ones ensuring inclusive and lifelong education, goal number 4, and goal number 16, the one promoting inclusive societies also by strengthening our institutions. So it's not a surprise that the same goals are among the most likely to be met by the library action. So it should be clear now that our visions of the past impact on our present and on our future. And this consciousness should be the soil where libraries can build their social action. But of course, it's not so easy. On one hand, we have academic communication, which is, of course, a fundamental pillar in the transmission of knowledge, but it's hardly able to meet a so widespread need of history. Academic communication is oriented on producing scientific papers, educating researchers, not on dealing with the general public or with engaging wide audiences. Its priority is not the use of popular language. It's not aimed to convince people that history may be useful for them. The distance between such communication and common people was deepened by social media and played a role in a growing phenomenon of distrust towards science. On the other hand, we can, of course, we cannot ignore the results of scientific research and of historical research. We know that an unaware circulation of scientific information may lead to pseudoscience. Everybody can pretend to be an expert in everything, but of course, this doesn't mean he or she is actually an expert. And not everybody has the necessary skills and competencies for working on historical sources or evaluating, interpreting new kind of sources, especially the digital ones. So is the knowledge of the past is partial, affected by cognitive biases, not paying attention to the difference between history and memory, it may lead to misinformation, to fake news, something with libraries fighting with, or even to intentional abuses of history, for example, in case of manipulations of the past for political purposes. This may turn the search for inclusion into the risk of new divisions. So this is the background from which public history was born. But I can't give for sure that this concept is already familiar with everybody. So let's stop for a while in defining public history, and we stick to an authoritative definition, which is the one issued by the International Federation for Public History. Public history is a field in the historical science made up of professionals who undertake historical work in a variety of public and private settings for different kinds of audiences worldwide. It's a not only academic field, it aims to elaborate historical knowledge for and with the public. Its connection with historical science implies the use of reliable sources and the scientific method, but its peculiarity lies in engaging people. Being aware that understanding the past is a living part of our present. To do so, new languages are required despite disciplinary division or barriers separating academic approach and professional lives. Some of the actions performed outside academic settings are, for instance, history festivals, making documentaries, practices of reenactment of historical events, programming exhibitions, gaming on historical topics, building historical parks, commemorating anniversaries, but also spreading information and competences on the management of the historical sources as the one that archives and libraries collect. A short review of the fast-growing literature of public history may better highlight some of these concepts, but we have no time for this, and I invite you they may be found in the full paper prepared for the conference. Let's say just something else about public history, about what choose the wrong direction. Okay. About what public history is not. It's sometimes confused with scientific dissemination or even with the popularization of historical concept, but the approach is very different. It aims to engage audiences not only as passive spectators in a one-way communication, which is typical of scientific dissemination, but also sharing skills so that people may contribute to elaborate and product history, sharing authority with historians. Moreover, it's not only about narrating history in an easy way, even if language, of course, is important, but doesn't base only on secondary sources. It means also involving people in using main sources and historical method. Of course, it's a challenging goal, but when the game gets tough, libraries get going. So, can we consider public history and libraries as cooperating? Wesley Johnson had no doubt about it in 1978 when he first pointed out the areas of interest for public history, finding a common denominator with libraries in their role of mediators. Actually, libraries act as hubs and manager of historical sources. They are widespread in different places and communities. They are considered expert mediators of knowledge and facilitator of information literacy. So it shouldn't be surprising that library may enhance their action by considering the public history approach in cooperation with historians as an opportunity of advocacy of themselves also with the scientific community, but even as a less usual and effective way to reach their institutional purposes. This may be achieved also by cooperating with archives and museums, which are the main partners in the preservation and promotion of cultural heritage. And in fact, archives, libraries, and museum communities are often involved in the activities of the Association of Public Historians. These intersections are sometimes, but still too rarely, I think, underlined by the literature on public history, which points out that libraries are an interesting arena for historically informed interaction and highlight the shift towards a new library model that incorporates online collaboration and user-centered change. This doesn't mean just hosting public history events in libraries, but also devising new strategies from the public history point of view. Recent evolution in digital issues, and especially the enormous growth of user-generated content, which makes us, all of us, not only consumer, but also producer or information prosumers, was said, suggested some, this evolution suggesting some strategies for library action. Maybe the most relevant for public history purposes are crowdsourcing and co-curation. Crowdsourcing means crowdsourcing content, images, data, both in the sense of collecting relevant documents from users, for instance, family photographs or memories, to build community archives to show the history of the community. Or also asking for users' help in managing the data collection. For instance, crowdsourcing transcriptions of documents, ongoing digitization projects. Co-curation, on the other hand, implies inviting users to bring their expertise and experience to interact with collection, for instance, annotating or translating or helping dating documents. A brief review of experience may explain more than word, but we will not consider them in detail now. Here's just some annotation to show a variety of possible actions and, of course, experiences that libraries may perform or become involved in. Not only crowdsourcing or co-curating, but also bringing together a range of digital sources related to a topic or to a historical period, for instance, with options of federated search among these sources. It's possible to share stories about a relevant period. Unfortunately, COVID offers a perfect target for activities like that. Moreover, a wide range of activities in libraries, even traditional activities such as bibliographic exhibitions, up to information literacy classes or practices of media communicating or gaming, all of these may be interpreted by libraries with a public history approach. If this kind of activities are projected to engage audiences right from the design stage. Even during this conference, I caught many inspiring experiences that were not meant to be, of course, public history practices, but could be interpreted or implemented in such a key. Just let me going to the conclusion, just a few words about the experience of the Italian Library Association. During the last 6 years, the association promoted a survey and a debate whose outputs were exposed and debated again in many of the public history annual conferences held in different towns of Italy. We were trying to define a paradigm of library action in this field, but at the end we easily found out that public history may be of cross-cutting interest to any typology of libraries, despite their differences. Public, academic, schools, special libraries, they all address people, and engaging people is the common denominator, both for public history and for the new librarianship. Going fast to the conclusions, this image proposes a more detailed and not exhaustive, of course, overview of the main intersections that we've started talking about. In a digital environment, public history encourages an interdisciplinary dialogue which involves historians and professionals in the archives, library, and museum sector to foster social inclusion and democratic participation in the logic of welfare, also sometimes producing other digital documents and outputs. A few years ago, Thomas Cauvin, the former president of the International Federation of Public History, imagined public history as a tree, where libraries collecting and providing documents are the roots, because they manage sources to be then interpreted. The interpretation is the trunk of the tree, and communication is the branches, books and media, communicated to be used, the leaves. If we, as a professional community, will be able to communicate our role in all these mentioned intersections, I hope it will become clear that libraries are not only roots for public history as manager of sources. Did they act whenever people and documents are? In documents, in schools, in social media, in journals, in books, up to the branches of the tree, communicating history, and up to its leaves. The uses of history. Libraries deal with education, identity, fun, empowerment, politics, social justice, and the list goes on. Libraries are everywhere people and their history and their need of knowledge are, or at least they should be there. For further references, I recommend this resource. It's the Electronic Library of Public History, an open access international repository hosted by the Academic Repository of Salerno University in Italy. And I am available for any other question. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
I think there is a question from Nikki Hadjipanagiotou for the previous presentation. Nikki, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I think Angeliki and Elisabeth are here. So,
would you like me to pose the question so everyone can hear, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the interesting session and all presenters. And thank you, Angeliki and Elisabeth, for an interesting presentation. I just wanted to ask, because at the end of your presentation, you said that librarians require new skills. So I was wondering if with that statement, you imply that the librarians that are working in Greek libraries that are already providing co-working spaces do not have the required skills to support it.
Well, no, that's not what we said. I did not imply any such thing. What we suggest is that the academic librarians who wish to develop such services for digital nomads need to be aware that they must develop these skills as well.
So you were referring to other libraries that temporarily they are not offering co-working spaces. Okay, thank you. And also, I was wondering if you have checked what other libraries in other European countries offer in regard to co-working spaces for digital nomads.
No, but I'm sure if you have an example that you could share with us, we'd be happy to present it.
No, I don't have any example. I was wondering if you have included maybe in your research or in your work other libraries from other European countries in order to get some kind of inspiration, what's happening in other places, and maybe some lessons learned that could be adapted by Greek libraries as well.
No, not from Europe. We have some examples from the United States, but still we focus not on academic libraries, but on the private sector as well.
Okay.
We see them as competitors. We're not competing against academic libraries. We're trying to invest in spaces and earn some users from the private sector.
Okay, I understand. But I would suggest that maybe it could be a good idea to also check what other libraries in other countries are doing, because it could be inspirational, as I said, and maybe also they could you could adapt a good practice from them, and therefore somehow compete with private these private offices.
Sure. Thank you for the
Yeah.
suggestion. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other question or comments? I can see the chat that there are Cornelia. I have a question for Esra and Kevin. Kevin and Esra, are you here? Because they said that they had to leave the meeting after the presentation. Yes, they are not here. Okay, so you can send them an email to ask. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Questions or comments? Okay, it seems that there are no questions. Okay, thank you very much, presenters and the audience. Thank you. Now, just informing that the lunch is at 1 o'clock. We have 20 minutes. I think that the room 2 has not finished yet. So if you wish to join the room 2, okay, you can go. And people from distance as well, they can follow the link. And at 3 o'clock is the half-day excursion, okay? So those who have registered for the excursion can stay here, the building. Okay, thank you very much. And people from distance. Okay, thank you.